There are many characters in the Wings of Fire universe, some good, some bad, some perfect in every way, like me. But what is my favourite? Hi, I'm your host Heatwave, and today's 75 subscriber special, I'll be talking about my favourite Icewing, Winter. But first, a special thanks to the Holy Cannoli Oil who made this epic fan art of me. And a special thank you to everyone over on the official Discord server that also participated in the art challenge. Yeah, that's right. Heatwave has fan art now, mother. I'm an Icewing. That means I belong in the Ice Kingdom with my own tribe. I should have never gone to Jade Mountain. This prophecy, even if it is real, has nothing to do with me. And I should have nothing to do with you. Welcome back to the... You know what, I guess you could call this Wings of Fire lore. Anyway, welcome to our 75 subscriber special. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, how ironic, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss any episode that I publish. Before we begin, I just want to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed and who continue to return to watch every episode. I never expected to get 75 subscribers, but let's keep climbing up the leaderboard. You never know how big we may get. Perina might get recognised by Tui Sunderland herself. You know, that would be nice. Act 4, set in the Empire of Perina. Ooh. Spoiler alert. Anyway, my favourite character in all of the Wings of Fire universe, other than myself, is the conflicted Winter the Icewing. Now, why do I like Winter? As a character, well, he is very well written, especially for Act 2 dragons. But what makes a good character? Well, hell if I know, I'm just the host here. To understand why Winter is so well written, we have to go back to Act 1 and look at the writing of the other characters, because Act 1 dragons were written very, very well. Too bad we can't say that for Act 3. In fact, I think a lot of us just want to quietly forget Act 3. Well, okay, maybe not Cricket. She actually seems interesting, by the way. The 5 original Dragonettes were clearly written with a basic character archetype, or at least we can identify their character archetypes. For context, an archetype is a defining characteristic trait that helps define the character in their voice, motivations, interests, and actions. For example, the Tyrant of the Mojave is a chaotically evil character, meaning his actions and motivations are of the purest evil. Character archetypes allow characters to be more relatable to the reader. They allow us to better understand the why behind their thoughts and actions. Why did Tsunami choose to attack that lone Skywing? Well, because it's in her nature to be hot-headed and lash out. We know that based on her actions and dialogue from the first book. So what character archetypes do we find in Act 1? Well, Clay is of course the big brother of the group, hence his title of Big Wings. He is strong yet gentle and compassionate, but still fits that Mudwing trope of being a little slow. Tsunami is hot-headed, gung-ho. She is the type of dragon who shoots first and asks questions later. While she means well, her entire character development was simply to tell her, let the grown-ups make the decisions. But I would at least say that Tsunami's character stays consistent over all the books. She's still the headstrong dragon she is, even in Flames of Hope. Glory is the strong but silent type. She is a natural-born leader and very calculative. She feels that after being put down and ridiculed, she has to work extra hard to be noticed. It's why she couldn't understand why Rainwings are so lazy and dumb. But she rises to become queen of 2 tribes. Starflight is an easy one. He is smart but also a weakling, a coward. It's why I love voicing him in a deep voice, because it's ironic to his character. And then we have Sunny, who's essentially the little sister of the group. She is meek, sweet, optimistic, and naive, but also she tries to see the good in others. Either way, it's easy to understand how these characters think, feel, and act based upon their writing. In fact, the 5 dragonettes can pull off some pretty good sarcasm as well. But that's not all. Burn, Blister, and Blaze are also easy characters to understand. Burn is about brutality, Blister is scheming and conniving, and Blaze is just an idiot. Let's face it, she is an idiot. And then Scarlet, who I actually like as a character. I love voicing her because it's a mix of all 3 Sandwing princesses. That brutality, scheming, but also just stupidity put together. You interrupted my feast. You will not do that again. Why don't we just kill them? Oh, that wouldn't be fun. We have a whole day of entertainment planned for tomorrow. It's my hatching day, and I want it to be thrilling. I feel like her death is so bad, like the neck snap bruh. It was such an unbefitting end to her character. It was rather disappointing, honestly. But they are actually not the best written characters in Act 1, no. That title goes to Deathbringer. Okay, so hear me out. I'll quickly explain why Deathbringer is the best written character, because it will give us some good baselines for understanding why Winter is written so well. Deathbringer is one of the best written characters in Wings of Fire, because he invokes a lot of tragic feelings of regret, loneliness, and how he deals with his trauma. It's actually a sad story. So, his story, for those who don't know who Deathbringer is, well, he's a Nightwing, and he is trained as a dragonette to be a skillful assassin. In fact, he was trained under his own mother, Quickstrike. But Deathbringer's mother was not a kind soul. She was harsh and uncaring for her son, a common thing among most Nightwings, on the volcano that is. Either way, both would be dispatched to eliminate a Sea-Wing officer. Her death would help shake up the War of Sandwing Succession. En route, Quickstrike was hit by a bolt of lightning. Presumed dead, Deathbringer hit her and continued the mission. And of course he did succeed. But his mother died, suspected to be killed by the Sandwing forces. This made Deathbringer vow to protect the ones he loves. But it's easy to assume that he felt a lot of regret. That he couldn't protect his own mother. That he hates himself because of this. He probably became a very good assassin by isolating himself, punishing himself, forcing himself into operations that may even kill him out of guilt for losing his own mother. And his constant jokes and goofy humor, that's a response to trauma. Sometimes people respond to trauma with silly humor. Soldiers do it, to cope with what has happened and what they've seen. And then there's Glory. Again, Glory is a leader-like character. She can be harsh and doesn't take crap from anyone. And that, to Deathbringer, reminds him of his mother. That's why he has this deep romantic feelings for Glory. She is the anchor for his emotions of dread and self-hate, and he vows to protect her in any way possible. Of course, this is all just speculation, but the fact that Deathbringer's character is written so well to provoke this feeling makes him a very, very interesting and well-written character. So how does that translate into Winter's character? Well, let's see. What are we working with in Act 2? We have Moonwatcher, who keeps the secret of mind reading and seeing the future, which is only relevant for one book. Moonwatcher seems to be neutral as she ends up controlling her powers at the end of Book 6. She doesn't seem to do anything else except say what other characters are thinking within the context of the moment. Kind of boring. We have Turtle. I mean, Turtle is not a bad character. I actually enjoyed Talons of Power very much, and his dialogue is very well written. But as a character, what is he about? Keeping a secret of Animus power by playing dumb? So nothing interesting except trying to keep his secret. Okay. Then we have the biggest disappointment in Wings of Fire. I hate Pearl. But it's actually easy to understand how she has been manipulated and how that makes her feel. But she still doesn't really try to change her predicament. She still seeks out Scarlet out of some deep loyalty because she's an idiot, and of course she releases Darkstalker. Like, Moonwatcher read his scroll. It clearly states that his power is in the scroll. Didn't Moonwatcher think if the scroll is burned to ash it will release his power? But no, here comes Pearl to f things up. You useless dragon. Easy, Heatwave. Deep breath. And then we have Quibble. He, of course, uses sarcasm and dumb humour to mask how very smart and calculated he is. It's an interesting survival tactic, playing himself down. It's how he tricks Darkstalker into trusting him, but still, Quibble's personality is still based around keeping a secret, which seems to be the theme of Act 2 characters. How well can you keep a secret? So then we come to Winter. He, of course, is the only saving grace of Act 2 characters. For context, who is Winter? Well, I, being Heatwave, have done some extensive research on Winter. So Winter is an Icewing prince, introduced in Book 6, Moon Rising, and up until Book 6 and later Book 7, we had very limited information on Icewings, as they didn't really get much of an appearance in the first act. Winter comes off as defensive, mean, and cold towards Moonwatcher, instantly distrustful towards her for the sole fact that she is a Nightwing, with Moon describing his mind as being conflicted. Being Icewing royalty, he was brought up to be peak in elegance, manners, and respect. The Icewing hierarchy used a class-based system, a leaderboard of who was the best and who was the lowest, with the dragons on top being shown a better standard of living. Winter, as a dragonette, had a lot of curiosity, but it seems it had been replaced by the cold practices of the Icewings. Before Jade Mountain, Winter lost his brother Hailstorm to the Skywings. Winter's family blamed him for getting his brother captured after his obsession with scavengers. Eventually, he blames himself, deep down. In his time at Jade Mountain, he vowed to uphold the loyal Icewing ideas and laws, the best he can, but there was something about Moonwatcher that troubled him. He found himself enjoying her company more and more, even sharing a small one-on-one moment in the rainforest where they spoke to each other as equals. This led Winter into a strange sense of emotion that makes him such a great character. He is relatable, because his character is feeling the very same thing that we all feel. Winter feels conflicted. He has been convinced to hate Moonwatcher, but he falls in love with her. He hates himself and feels regret for what happened to Hailstorm, even allowing himself to be killed if it meant his brother is returned to his former standing. Winter also feels his loyalty is being tested. He wants to be a good Icewing. He wants to do his duty and fit in and make his parents proud for once. Stop liking her. Remember what Father said. They're all liars. Be strong, vigilant, strike first. Trust nobody. Not even interesting Nightwings with silver teardrop scales. All of these thoughts, all of these emotions are something we all feel. We have all felt at some point in our lives regret for our actions, the struggle to stay loyal to our ideals, our friends or family, and we have all felt love and attraction to something that we're told not to like. I like Winter as a character because he reminds me of me, in a way. His character is far more interesting as we watch him navigate through his emotions, and in the end he chooses for a fresh start, a new beginning, to find loyalty to his friends and loyalty to himself. Because happiness isn't where I am, it's who I'm with. As weird as it is, They're my new family now. My new tribe. But, unfortunately, he wouldn't have the best time in the rest of Act 2. All that character growth goes out the window with Darkstalker, who uses some bullshit spell that dumbs down his character into a puppet. It was very disappointing for me to read. I hate Darkstalker. Anyway, in the end, Winter is barely mentioned in Act 3. Apparently he studies scavengers while his friends are off saving the world. Yeah, you know who you are. You, Quibble. In the end, I keep a custom portrait of Winter on my desk. A constant reflection of how his character reminds me of me, and how much I adore him in the Wings of Fire universe. And that concludes my episode on my favourite Wings of Fire character, Winter. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for subscribing. I'm very proud of myself that I've reached this significant milestone, and can't wait to see what the future beholds. I've been your host, Heatwave, signing off.